lights from the boss. Lower the lights.
The past 3 years of my life really spun out of control. I pretty much had denied what had happened to me growing up. It was a different time too. I mean, I think the big thing back then was like, you know, you just go out in your yard and play. Not that they didn't care, everybody trusted everybody back then. It's this neighborhood that I feel buried in it. That's the house where like a lot of the real bad stuff happened.
Men standing in our studio audience right now. Each one is holding a picture of themselves at the age when they say they were first sexually abused.
1 in 6 boys. 1 in 6 boys. 1 in 6 boys is sexually abused
before the age of 18.
1 in 5 youth.
1 in 5 youth
received sexual approach over the internet in the past year. Less than 10%.
Less than 10% of childhood abuse is reported to the police.
9 kids per hour.
Being molested every day.
220 cases per week.
80,000 kids per year.
60 million.
60 million childhood survivors of sexual abuse.
It was a very, very hot topic, a topic that had been, we've been inundated with in the media.
A young man who blocked out a football legend in Pennsylvania.
Could involve a Little League and Pop Warner football.
Former Londonderry High School English teacher
A youth soccer coach is under arrest, accused of child molestation.
for sending nude photos of herself.
First and second degree molestation of a child.
Sexually molesting teenage boys.
2-year-old child sexual abuse.
Coach Jerry Sandusky.
Former altar boy.
15-year-old student.
The victims were piling up.
More alleged victims are coming forward.
It's involving 2 victims.
2 new victims they didn't know about.
500 victims of sex abuse by priests in the Archdiocese of Los Angeles.
There's an older kid that used to live there. He was late high school, almost college or whatever. He's the one that, you know, he used to babysit us.
This idea that he had to be able to take his story and many other people's stories and be able to make one film told in an intelligent way, an insightful way, do the survivors justice by telling a story that was rooted in the reality and the truth and the grittiness of that experience.
First time, you know, we're upstairs, me and my best friend, and we're playing around and goofing off like we normally did, and he came in.
When that moment of personal crisis hits, and it can vary for everybody, for Brett, certainly it was a type of bottom that you hear about. Lose the job, lose people's faith, lose people's trust, but there's a spectrum. Internally, it's about when do I reach my bottom.
I was tired of being scared of pain, and so I would just hold pain on me. And then it felt good, and then it started becoming pretty addictive.
What affects one affects us all. And I think by increasing that awareness, that we're all better for it. And I think that's why the friends, the family, the wives, the significant others, all of these various segments of society, you know, we're all affected by it.
Finding that place of healing is a very difficult one, but the level of raw emotion that continued to show up throughout the script is a pretty important one, because that's what people tend to stay away from.
Coming here, I feel like it doesn't have a power over me anymore.
We've really made an effort to be truthful, to be honest, and to emphasize the healing process, and rather than the result.
The fact that there is hope it's exciting. I mean, Most men never think that they'll have that.
I advocate and support and endorse and want to push this story and the telling of the story because it's directly connected to, I think, a doorway for healing for a lot of people. Sometimes, depending on how shut down someone is, they may not have the words or even understand what's happening until they see the story or hear people talking about it, and they connect, and then that allows them to start their own process.
After coming out of the darkness and actually helping people and producing this and getting it out there and sharing my story and them being able to relate, it's really nice to know that I'm not alone, that they're not alone.
I am not alone.
I am not alone.
I am not alone.
I am not alone.
I'm not alone.
I am not alone.
We are 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 not alone.
They share that bond. It's still a long journey for me. There's no doubt about it. I just want to be happy.
Wow. Excellent. Is that Ocala Street in Nashville, Antioch?
Yeah. How powerful. How powerful. My name is Connie Williams. I might just take a seat. Larry has really made me feel comfortable. I bring a different twist to this story. First, I'd just like to thank you guys for allowing us to be here tonight, to even bring this subject forward. Also, I just want to let you guys know that I'm running over with emotion. This is actually the first time that I've met Brett myself personally, and I feel like I know him. You know, I have a daughter. She's now 23. When she was about 13 or 14, she was sexually molested by my ex-husband, right under my nose. So I bring the parents' perspective. I take nothing away from the victims because they're just that. But they are just the main victim. Not only does it affect that individual, it affects the parents, it affects the family, and it can go on to even affect our community. We've seen it. Fortunately, my daughter is doing very well. I was not in denial, even though that was my husband. When my daughter came to me, I believed her and took the steps to do what we needed to do. She fought tooth and nail, did not want to go to counseling. We went through 4 different counselors. We finally found one that was able to break through, and she's doing really well. She will be graduating Tennessee State University's nursing program in May, and she's doing excellent. Thank God. But on the flip side, we do have others that go through sexual assault. Their story is a lot different. Their story could be like Brett's, one that he had to deal with it internally himself. Then you have kids that tell their parents, but their parents do not believe them. You have parents that know that it's going on, and they do nothing about it. So there's a lot of different scenarios. So what I have made a personal commitment to do is to reach out to parents, to have them support their children, have them to be able to take care of themselves, because in my case, I didn't take care of myself. I did it pretty much by myself. I know that I'm like 100 and maybe 69 pounds now week, but I got down to 114 pounds. I suffered severe depression. I had to watch my daughter rock, bang her head up against the wall. I mean, it was a road. It was a hard road. It was a road that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. And it's so hard as a parent to see this and to think, if only I had done this, if I hadn't done that. I mean, I'm a nurse. I was working nights. I thought I was doing what I needed to do for my family. But if only I hadn't worked nights. If only I had never gone to nursing school. If only I had never married this guy. I had to learn that despite all of those issues, it wasn't my issue. It was his issue. That was something that he suffered with. So if it hadn't been my baby, it probably would have been someone else's baby that had to deal with this. So, what I've done now is I go back to the non-offending parents group at the Nashville Children's Alliance. Some of you may have seen me on TV yesterday. I did the walk yesterday in Centennial Park, and they gave me a little 30-second spotlight. But I'm an advocate. Everywhere I go, I talk about it. I want everybody to be upfront about it. Realize that it is not something that looks for black people, white people, poor people, Chinese people, rich people. It is all over. It does not discriminate. We need to raise awareness. Now, I tell you that the interesting thing is that my ex-husband was in the ministry. And I learned later that he used religion to get what he wanted. He would tell me things like, why do you think God sent me to you? And I grew up in an Episcopal church. He grew up in a Baptist church, and for some reason he felt like Baptists knew more than Episcopalians, and so, and he's the head and he trumped all, and and I was trying to be the submissive wife and follow his lead. So it's everywhere. There's nowhere that is exempt. We need to prepare ourselves. We need to pass the word along. And so part of what I'm doing is, not in addition to supporting parents that have been through this, I also am a facilitator for Darkness to Light Stewards of Children. I go out and I do trainings. I'll be training 64 nursing students on the 17th of April. This training is a sexual abuse prevention training. It prevents, it takes the responsibility off of the child and puts it on the adult. It's my job to keep my baby safe. It's not my baby's job to keep herself safe. It's not her job to report back to me when someone touches her. Well, yeah, it is her job to do that, but it's my job first to make sure that if my child comes and stays with you, hey, I let you know. I have a certification in Stewards of Children, and I am aware of anything that goes on. My child, she is aware. We have these discussions. Everything is out in the open. So I'm trying to think of if I left anything out. I'm so nervous. I can't say enough the pain that it causes a parent not to be able to protect their child. This is why I totally support this film. Because if we can get it out in the open, if we can discuss it, if we can talk about it, if we can have more of us than it is them, then guess what? Then we're winning. We're winning. Our children are winning. They are our futures. So with that being said,
I want to thank Larry and Doris for having us. happy to be here in front of my brothers and sisters in Christ. I don't get the opportunity to do that a lot. I speak in front of a lot of groups, but this is a special group because ultimately we'll be in heaven forever, and I get to fully express myself. As head producer, I'm not really here to talk about the film. I'm not even here really to talk about that place. What I'm here to talk about is after that place, because that's where the drama happens. Let me preface by saying that I have great parents. She's a great parent. I love my parents, and we had a lot of fun. It was an amazing place, that place was. I have great siblings, we played sports, we had barbecues, everything was great. But I remember my dad loading up the truck, and I was in the back of the truck, and I remember, back in the day, you could just throw your kid in the back of the truck. I remember pulling off and looking and knowing I would never come back to that place. Out of all the good memories, out of all the great times I had with my family, I knew I would block that part of my life out forever, and I would never go back. So, we packed up and moved to Brentwood, and great private school, great Christian friends. Happened to be the captain of the football team, pitcher, all of the whole thing. Everything was great. So, high expectations. I knew that if I had sports in my life and the competition in my life, that dark spot that Ocala had, that put in my heart, I knew that if I could overcome and be the greatest and the best at everything, that I could block that out. So, I succeeded, and I got a full scholarship. Not as great as I wanted, but a full scholarship to the university, or Lipscomb University, as a pitcher. Great girlfriend, great grades, the whole thing. And my senior year, I was about to pitch against Ole Miss on ESPN, and in practice I got an injury. I had Tommy John surgery. Here's where the problem happens, because now what? How do I drown out what's inside of me? So, stillness happened and quietness happened. Not good. To go back a little bit, mental pain and the spiritual pain is way worse than physical pain. So I started burning myself. I think you noticed in the documentary it says that I held pain on me. At an early age, I would steal cigarettes from a neighbor and burn myself in my ankle. I did that until, well, it was really addictive, and I did it for a long time. There were a lot of women cut. I was a burner. So to go back to Lipscomb, I had the grades and everything like that, but I knew I was gone. And so when I was gone, I took off. And I didn't have any money, and I didn't have a job. I knew no one, but I landed in London. I got there, I'd never been on a train before, so I took a taxi, a black cab, all the way in, which cost me about $400, which you can never do. I get in the middle of London, no place to stay, so I was homeless for 6 weeks. Perfect. Drowning out the mental, or the physical, mental, and the hurt inside of me. So, living on the edge, all the great things that came with that, I met people and it was awesome, but there was still that dark spot. Got a job, lived above a pub, started bartending, fast life, was awesome, drowning it out. That ended up not being good enough, so I moved to Paris, and then I moved to Brussels, then I moved to Amsterdam, and then I moved to Germany, and then Austria, and then I did all of Europe until I was bored, and Europe wasn't enough for me. So I met a girl, and her dad happened to own some universities in the Middle East, so I took off for the Middle East. Found myself in Dubai, having no clue what I was doing there, but I was studying Islam and preaching Christianity, which I loved, and it was a big part, but it's still that nagging part inside of me. So that was about 8 months there, and I found myself in Saudi Arabia. And then I found myself in Lebanon. And then I found myself in the middle of a war between Beirut, or Lebanon, and Israel. And that's when they kidnapped the Israeli soldiers, and I was underground at that point, and Hezbollah, interviewing Hezbollah. Great choices, right? So that was it. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I've run to the end of the world, and I can't go anywhere. So I found myself back in London, no money, and the lady approached me about doing some modeling. And I was like, no, it's not really for me. I don't really know anything about it. After about another week or two of being homeless on the metro bus, I took her up on it. Well, they had already cast it, so they put me in the commercial. Got some great money. They moved me to New York, and I ended up in a competition. I wanted some practice with the acting and everything like that, and so didn't think I was going to win or anything, but I won out of 3,000 contestants. And so they put me up in New York, agent, full scholarship to the New York Film Academy, you name it. I did a lot of campaigns through that. Did that for a year with the New York Film Academy, and after that, nothing. Where are the acting jobs, right? Like, nothing was happening. So, met a girl, great relationship, and found myself at the university, Upright Citizens Brigade, Amy Poehler School. So, went through the levels of that, failed the 5th level, continued through, passed, ended up with Amy Poehler and her improv troupe. Loving the spotlight, doing improv, alive, everything was great. She introduced me to Tina Fey. I started writing with 35. Now everything's great, right? Everything is on board. I got a great and loving girlfriend. I have money in my pocket. I have a place in the Upper East Side across from the Met in the Upper East Side of New York. And everything was great. Until, what do I do now? So in the relationship, I would go to bed, and the nightmares started happening. And the flashbacks started happening. And that's when the booze started happening. That's when partying with celebrities and cocaine started happening. A lot of it. Until one day, if we go back to my college, I had a accountability partner that I met. And she opened up to me about her being molested. Flash forward, she stabbed herself in the heart. And I personally couldn't answer her phone call because my girlfriend was so paranoid about me cheating, and which I was, that I couldn't answer the call because it was a girl. So at that point, guilt started happening, and I attempted multiple different strategies to drown everything out and to overdose or do whatever. So, I had a nervous breakdown. I came into my house and I destroyed everything. Literally everything in my house. And I broke the windows, did everything. Found myself in the bed, picking out glass because glass was all over the floor, and look out to 4 NYPD with their guns drawn. They thought I was a burglar. My neighbors called the cops. I had a great relationship with them, but they were just unsure what was going on. They let me go, they let me sleep. I ended up getting kicked out, and I moved in with a friend on this couch. Going for an audition, didn't know where life was taking me, and I booked it. And that sent me to Nashville. I booked a film here, a Christian film no less, and booked another film, went back to New York and did some Broadway shows, and then got a call from a guy named Jason Berkey. He was the lead in a really big Christian film for abortion. What's the name of that? Do you remember? It did $10 million in. He was the lead. Anyway, so we linked up, met a guy named Brandon Hirsch who you saw, and was the biggest blessing in my life, because what we did, he was like, you need to write to get whatever demons you have out. And so I put it on paper. And the more I put it on paper, the more apparent it was as what was going on in my life. And it was that situation. And I couldn't run anymore. And so we got the script. We met so many amazing people like Tanya and counselors, and I've met with therapists, and I've met with so many great people in this community. I'm still new in this journey, and there's still a little bit / long way to go, but I know there's hope. Prior to even think about hope or happiness, I noticed at the end of that it says, I just want to be happy. Well, for the first time after being back there, I said that subconsciously, but I never thought I would be happy, no matter what I did, no matter how great I was. But that hope that's there now is what keeps me driven and driving in the right direction. There are millions of kids that are going through that dark spot, and there's millions of adults especially. Infidelity, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, you name it, they will not come out about it because the family problems and the things like that, because a lot of times it's our families that do it to us. So that's why we're doing this. And we do have a long way to go, but we're right there. And I'm just so happy to be telling this story in front of you guys and enlightening you a little bit of our journey. So yeah, if you have any questions for me, please do that after we get done or whatever. And we can show, Ken Dooling played in the NBA for 13 years. He is there, and he is an endorser for us. Played for the Celtics and the Heat. He's coming out about it.